All right, good afternoon. Today is July 13th, 2016, and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Committee. My name is Wong Yang. I'm the chair of this committee. And with me today are council members Wright, Palmisano, Gordon, and Quincy, and I believe Council President Johnson may be joining us shortly. Today, or I should say, we have a quorum of this committee, and so we conduct its business. Today we have 5 items on consent, and we have a discussion item. And in between there, we will have a presentation as well, but we will take care of the discussion item, or the consent items first, and then we'll do the presentation. And then after that, we will do the discussion. So council members, today we have 5 consent items. The first is a 2016 Urban Scholar Program funding increase. Second item is a contract with the GSA Great Lakes region to provide fire and emergency services at the B.H. Whipple Federal Building in Fort Snelling. The third item is a 2016 Community Partnership Grant from Centerpoint Energy, which we will have a presentation for after this. The fourth item is a contract amendment with the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority for security services. And the fifth item is a grant amendment with the Minnesota Department of Homeland Security for bomb or police bomb unit readiness. Anyone wishing to pull any items out for discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, and now we will have a presentation, and so I will come up front, and Chief and anyone from Centerpoint, please come on up. Go ahead, no. So I don't usually get a chance to do this in committee. We typically do this in our full council meetings, but this is a great opportunity, and I like to do this every single year because we are getting a check, right, Chief?
Get a little money. I love that.
Okay, why don't you just take care of it from here?
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Councilmember Yang. Again, this year we have, in committee, we have applied for a community partnership grant from Centerpoint. Again, this year, as in years past, they've been so kind to give us a very nice donation that, again, this year that we are certainly identified where we're going to spend it this year. It's something that's a little bit different that I'll talk about in my update that I'm going to provide here shortly. But again, I want to thank Centerpoint for your ongoing partnership and collaborative efforts in so many fronts, not only in this, but our day-to-day service to the community. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to the ongoing efforts that we work on together with so many issues. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chief. And Centerpoint Energy is excited to continue our partnership with you and your team. And we'd like to present a check for $2,500. It is to, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but to advance a program that really is important for our youth and for our seniors in the community. Centerpoint Energy has awarded up to $2,500 to over 700 projects, and we've spent a little over $1.38 million over the course of our program. And it really is about advancing the safety programs in the communities that we provide natural gas service. And so we share the safety commitment that your organization and the city shares. So thank you for being a great partner.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And why don't you look straight at the camera and introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Christy Singleton with Centerpoint Energy, and I'm the North District Director.
Yes, and I'm Doug Boudreau, and I'm the South District Director here in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Chief, you have any other words before we close this down?
Luke, hurry up and cash this. I spent it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.
Chief, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So, before we begin with the discussion item, I should recommend to the chief that you might not want to cash that check until next Friday when the full council approves it. So wait a little second, okay? All right. We are getting to our discussion item, which is item number 6. And this is just kind of a mid-year recap of the departments that report to our committee here. And so we're going to start first and foremost. And Ms. Corbell, please go ahead with the Civil Rights Department. I should mention that there is one department that will not be reporting today. And there were a number of different issues that caused that, and so they will report at probably the next meeting or the meeting after that, and that's the police department. And a lot of things have been happening in the police department and in the area of public safety, and they just were not available at this point. So just wanted to apologize to the viewing public and everyone here that police will not be reporting today, but had really good reasons for that. So please go ahead. 5 minutes for every presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Committee. My name is Velma Corbell. I'm the Director in the Minneapolis Department of Civil Rights. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to update you on our work thus far in 2016. I thought the best way to update this committee was to go back and update you from the beginning of the year when we provided our results conference to staff and council members back in, I believe it was March of this year, for work that ended in 2015. So I'll just give you some numbers, and this will certainly be updated again with the results. But I thought for just highlighting, I would tell you about the way the work is increasing in the Civil Rights Department. Many of you have asked me about this over the last several months. So if you recall from the results conference back at the end of 2015, I talked about the Office of Police Conduct Review and the way the number of intakes had increased in that office over time, when the cases they were handling at the end of the year was right around 750 cases. And thus far in 2016, they are handling about 500 cases. So that work is increasing. And I think what we'll hear a lot more from when we talk at the budget committee hearings later on this fall or later this summer is the fact that when we created the Office of Police Conduct Review, one of the things that we were intent on doing is making sure that when complainants came to the city, that they would have an option of who they would file their complaint with, either a civilian or sworn intake personnel. And for the most part, complainants do request a civilian personnel, and this is reflective in the amount of intake work that is increasing the office over time. I talked to you in March about the ADR settlements, around $260,000 for the entire year of 2015. Just in 2016, in the first 6 months, we've recovered $330,000 for complainants in our Complaint Investigations Division. At the end of 2015, I told you that the Contract Compliance Division was monitoring about $310 million worth of construction projects. So far, in the first 6 months of 2016, they are monitoring $705 million of construction contracts. Last year, in the Urban Scholars Program, we placed 92 urban scholars with 7 partners. This year, we are placing 76 with 5 partners, and 1 decreased its urban scholar placements quite substantially because of transition they were going through, and that's the Minneapolis Public Schools. We've recovered $54,000 in unpaid wages for employees that work with our construction contractors, and that is through our prevailing wage compliance program. So I'd also like to just highlight some pretty significant things that have happened overall in the department in the first 6 months. Many of you realize that since the end of 2015, the leadership, and with the exception of myself, the leadership in the Civil Rights Department has turned over completely, with our division directors going on seeking greater opportunities, one to the Dayton administration, one to the bench, one to the city of St. Paul, and one that I brought in from the coordinator's office. So the leadership has changed, but to their credit, they haven't missed a beat. And so they've been taking on a lot of work and doing an admirable job of it. The other thing that everyone here knows is that at the beginning of the year, the Civil Rights Department was authorized to take on the enforcement of the new sick and save time ordinance, and that implementation is also underway and going very well. And we'll have a deeper report to give to the council at our quarterly meeting that's scheduled within Committee of the Whole. The disparity study is underway. The culture in the department is one that is welcoming, acknowledging where employees are understood and included. And I couldn't be more pleased with the progress so far in the first 6 months. And I anticipate that we are going to hit all of our goals that were set at the beginning of the year. And I would just stop right there. And Mr. Chair, if there are questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Council members, any questions? Right. Well, thank you. Next is the fire department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to come and, again, John Friedel, proud to say I'm Chief of Minneapolis Fire Department, and an opportunity to come and talk to you about give you an update on our 2016 position of the department. I'll be very brief in my comments and certainly save some time at the end for some comments. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. In terms of our budget at this time, we're projecting to be for 2016 under budget. Our staffing levels at the present time, we are at 408. We are authorized to be at 406. We have initiated and started an EMS academy for adults that are 18 years of age and older, which was started in early May. They're going to graduate in August. A unique piece about this program, the EMS Academy, that is it is in collaboration and cooperation with the Hennepin County Medical Center and also Minneapolis Foundation. We've got 27 adults that started in the class. It is about 98% diverse, and 50% of the class members are female. The unique thing about this academy, when they do graduate in August, as you can see on my bullet point list, I have a September cadet class that is going to be starting in September 12th. In collaboration through labor management and a tentative agreement in our labor contract with the local 82 firefighters, they have agreed to include 30% of the graduating class of our EMS Academy in the next cadet class, which will start in September 12th, which is something that I'm very certainly thankful for the cooperation and collaboration with our partners and also local 82 the union. I think it's very unique that it's going to allow us an opportunity to develop a sustainable process, an alternative hiring process to maintain the diversity that's so important to us that we've worked so hard on over the years in this department to achieve. So it's going to be a way for us to maintain that. So we're very proud of that. Our high school programs, we finished our second year in Roosevelt High School. We completed our first year this year in North High. We look forward to an expansion of our program in Roosevelt and continue the program this fall also in North High. We still have some details to work out in both of those programs. Again, our September cadet class will be a class of 20. It will be, again, made up of 30% of that class will be graduates of our EMS Academy. So again, there'll be adults from the city of Minneapolis, 18 years of age and older, who've actually done of all the qualifications that have been required of a normal cadet coming on the job. They're going to have to pass all of those same requirements. So they're not just going to be given a position. They not only pass their EMT, but they have passed all of the entry-level qualifications in terms of physical agility tests, background checks, psychological, medical exams that a normal cadet's going to take. It allows us a pathway to utilize some of the programs and connect the dots in some of the programs that we have started. The grants that we have out there, we have just been notified this week. We received an Assistance to Firefighter grant known as an AFG grant for fire grant for survival training for firefighters, which was an amount of $725,000. That will allow us to train all of our firefighters over the next year in fireground survival techniques. It's a grant, again, from the federal government grant, which is going to allow us to expand in our training on our firefighters at it's almost free. It basically is. There's very low cost to the department and or the city for this. Our cancer prevention grant is a grant that we wrote collaboratively with the St. Paul Fire Department. It's a $1.6 million grant. That allows us to buy basically washers and dryers for each of the fire stations in Minneapolis and train our people into appropriately cleaning their turnout gear. Cancer has become not necessarily the leading cause of death of firefighters, but it is close. We're seeing more and more prevalent, the prevalence of cancers being found in firefighters around the country. With the environments that we enter today and the carcinogens in those environments, with the synthetic materials and the other things that are involved with that, cancer has become one of the leading causes of certainly death and injury to our firefighters. So it's a really unique opportunity for us to partner with St. Paul, and by doing so, it puts us in a really good position to be able to achieve some of these types of grants like this to allow us to do something that is something that a lot of folks don't probably have. You know, they don't have the ability to clean turnout gear effectively in the fire station. So with those will be not only in St. Paul, but Minneapolis will both have washers and dryers to appropriately clean our turnout gear, and also training for both their departments and our departments on some of the concerns and issues they have to deal with when dealing with some of the potential environmental issues they have on the fire ground. And of course, I've got the Centerpoint Community Partnership Grant that we just received the money for. I saved that for last because I wanted to show them the device that we decided to purchase that is unique to us in the West Metro. And what this is, it's basically a receiving device for kids who may be autistic in the community, and also adults who have cognitive issues. So if we have somebody who may have a young child who has autism and has a tendency to wander away from home, and the adults can't find them, they worry about that all the time. Or we have facilities where there may be someone in memory care or whatever, and they wander away from that facility. They will be able to register their children or that individual. They'll be put on this transmitter on their wrist, basically. We've had this come up a couple times already. St. Paul Fire has done this for years. We've had a couple constituents from in the city ask about this. I said, your timing's perfect because we just decided to purchase this equipment. We had a conversation with a captain in St. Paul Fire who has an autistic son and has had issues with his son wandering off, and has been able to locate him using this type of equipment. So it's very near and dear to his heart. I thought it was a good way for us to spend the money in the community. So we're going to buy 3 sets of this equipment. So we'll have one located on the north side, one in the central core of the city, and one probably somewhere in the south side. So when we get these types of calls, we'll be able to go out, and the crews will be trained to help locate either adults or children who have those kinds of issues. And I think it's a very key piece of providing a broader spectrum of service for the community of the city. So I guess that's it, and I'll be willing to take some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Council President Johnson, thanks for joining us, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I was late. Chief, fire ground survival training, what does that mean just in?
That is training. What that'll provide is there's some equipment that has been designed by the International Association of Firefighters, and it's basically a trailer with equipment to teach them techniques for fire ground survival. It sounds like a broader term, but it teaches them maybe escape techniques, things to look at, some of the dangers of the environments they enter, how to deal with some of those environments, whether it be searching, whether it be self-escaping, those types of things. And it's something that I think that it's challenging for us to do, and to receive this grant, it allows us the flexibility to be able to do that.
Good. And cancer prevention, what kind of cancers are you seeing in firefighters? Are we seeing in firefighters?
Almost
like
all kinds.
Skin or
skin cancer,
lung?
obviously the lung cancers when they're, so it's one of those things that when do we may talk to our fires about when is the time to take our breathing apparatus off? Let's make sure we monitor the air, make sure we're down to a safe level so they can safely take our breathing apparatus off and continue to work with the fire. It's those kinds of things that we need to remind folks of. And again, remember, when we get into these environments that they enter, all that stuff gets absorbed in their turnout gear. And all of a sudden you've got continuous skin exposure, and that's where we're starting to see some of the cancers that are starting to be somewhat prevalent in the fire service across the country. So I think it's something that's coming new, and there was some legislation this year at the state level where some of the flame retardant chemicals that were used in clothing, for example, have been removed because of that's one of those carcinogens that we may get in an environment. We have a fire that's in that smoke, and we may inhale or be exposed to. So just an example of some of the things that we're facing in the fire service.
Mr. Chair, can I have one more thing? As long as we have you here. We had a deliberate on the edge of Minneapolis and Robbinsdale, and there was a terrible fire in an apartment building in Robbinsdale, and they have mutual aid agreements with, I think they had 6 or 7 departments that responded. It's right by Twin Lake, the department. And our people responded at the very end. And my son-in-law's a Golden Valley firefighter. Okay. And he was saying that when the Minneapolis people came in there, that was the end of it. The fire got put out. And so and I wanted to thank you for that. But it just made me think, we do have these mutual aid agreements with departments that are on our edges.
Yes, we have actual mutual agreements for over 26 departments.
Okay.
We have a large mutual aid partnership with the whole West Metro, across the North Metro. We have, and obviously with St. Paul Fire, not the east side of St. Paul with the Maplewood and some of those areas we don't as of yet. But yes, we have a vast array of mutual aid partners. That's why when we have some of these larger events, I know that, you know, sometimes we get a little strapped for, much like when the bridge collapsed, we called in Robbinsdale. They came in and filled in some of our stations. And it's really nice to have those mutual aid partners to have that ability to be able to backfill our stations if the needs arises.
Well, it was compliments to our firefighters that they really helped get that under control and out.
Yeah, I think they do a great job. I'm proud of them.
Very scary, very scary.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had just a quick question. I know we had something in our bonding bill, or request for our bonding, related to railroad safety and train car extraction techniques. I don't know if this is a MFD issue or if it's emergency management issue, but can you tell us the status of what's happening with that, with or without the bonding, or is it on hold, or what are we doing about that?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Quincy, yes, there was a fair part of in the bonding bill in regards to rail safety and some of that, and include not only portions of that transportation bill we're dealing with the emergency management section, but also firefighting. We work together from our firefighters, our first responders, and emergency managers, and a lot of that revolved around us being able to. It's basically sharing of information when it comes to some of their response plans and being able to have and receive that information. In the past, it was a little bit limited in some of the information that we could see, at least from the fire perspective, so we could put an effective response plan together in reaction to this. No, I think we were able to, even though that unfortunately that did not pass as yet, we still continue to have meetings with the railroad officials, and we work through a lot of the issues. We have a great relationship with them, and we will continue to work on that. I know Councilmember Rake's been involved with that issue. So I think that I look forward to, we've got a good, solid relationship with the railroads in Minneapolis. They've been very forthcoming to us with questions and dealing with training and issues. We continue to train our firefighters in railroad issues. Right now, we are working on a rail training program within our training staff that is going to be presented at our EOTF that has been okayed and approved by the state. We'll start delivering that expanded training in rail-related issues, not only to our people, but hopefully on a regional type basis out of our facility. So we continue to partner. We are going to continue to work on it. I am on the State Chiefs Legislative Committee, and we continue to work on those issues. And I think that we've got I think now it's in a position where I believe that we'll get some sound legislation passed next session regarding that.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. It's great to hear that update about the coordination of especially the training for the region as well as the state. I was speaking a little bit more about the training facility itself. We looked for, I think it was a couple $1 million in the bonding bill for the enhancement of that facility on site. Is that part of this conversation?
That was not part of that particular rail conversation. We did have a bonding request for our facility. It unfortunately was not part of any passage of any legislation. We'll continue on that track and that path, because I think it's important that we have, the city's invested a lot of money in the state of the art facility that we have, and I think it's important for us that we share that. But I think we need some help in that. When we get into sharing things regionally, I think it's important that we share in that, and hopefully we'll be able to have some assistance with some of the expansion, working with our partners, such as even with Centerpoint, on some of the expansion of that facility. So I think we're going to continue to pursue that as we go forward.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 911. And Ms. Hunt, I just wanted to thank you for being here. I know you had some things that you were juggling, and really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm Heather Hunt, the 911 director, and with me today is Larry Sanchez. He is our step-up intern that's working with us in 911, so I wanted to bring him along to a council committee meeting. I only have a couple of slides, so we're going to move quickly through this. I'll talk a little bit about some of our more important performance metrics, our business plan updates, technology, and then our Pathways grant programs, which we have 2 in process. So our 911 answer times are fantastic. We have met consistently and exceeded the national standard for answering 911 calls since January. And so this slide shows in the brighter blue is the percentage of calls answered in 15 seconds or less. And the standard is 95. And you can see that we're at or above in most cases that standard so far this year of the 216,000 calls that we've answered in 911. And then the 10 seconds or less is the gray. And you can also see that we are at or above standards consistently. So I'm very proud of the work that our staff has done. I'm proud of our program of strategic staffing, accountability, and technology, as well as the great engagement that we've seen from our staff. On the technology timeline, we have, it never ends. So we have currently an RFP for a protocol system. This is the system that will guide the call takers through the call taking process, making sure that all callers get the same standard of care, and also increases the robustness of our accountability quality assurance program. And that's actually today, right across the hall, we are in the middle of a vendor demonstration. So those are today and tomorrow. US Bank Stadium, we have a presence in the Stadium Operations Center, which we are now training for. We have our equipment installed over there, and we will be supplying event dispatchers for certain events that are considered major, which would be over 40,000 in attendance. And the purpose of this is to bring an incident command system into the stadium and make it a common occurrence so that when we do get to the Super Bowl, we're not starting from scratch. We are working also with emergency management and facilities services on the redesign of the training and backup EOC space, which is our old EOC down in the 911 offices. That will also serve as one of many command centers for the Super Bowl and other major events. So we need to upgrade the 1982 furniture and fittings for that room and make it a more fully functional command center. And we completed all our 3 major systems in 2015 and early 2016. Our computer-aided dispatch system, we went to a totally new version of that software last October. We upgraded the radio system in June. And of course, we installed our 911 phone system and completely turned over all of that technology. We will be already on that system for a year, or we are just past a year on that system now, taking about 1 million calls on it. And already there's a new version of that software that we'll be upgrading to. As I said, it never ends. Our 911 cross-training initiative is almost done. You can see we just have a little tiny slice left. We have 2 operators left to complete the training, and they're scheduled for this fall. And finally, you may hear about this from other departments because this is not, neither of these are solely 911 projects, but we have the 911 Pathway Project, which Hennepin County now has received some state funding, and we're going to be working with them and other metro area stakeholders on a 911 employment pathways and training initiative. And then we just got approval for this Department of Labor Justice Service Careers Grant Award, $500,000. It's from the U.S. Department of Labor. It's to implement a Justice and Emergency Services Pathways project. And the partners involved in this are Hennepin County, Minneapolis Public Schools, Minneapolis Workforce Centers, Hennepin County Medical Center, and city departments including fire, 911, police, and the city attorney's office. So it's a broad participation. The work on that just actually started on July 1st, so we will have more to report on that. It's being led by CPED. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council President Johnson? Oh, okay. Councilmember Gordon?
I appreciate the report. I just had a little question about any updates about efforts to handle calls from people who don't speak English as their language. Do we have any bilingual 911 dispatchers at this point yet? Are there any initiatives underway to make sure that we're serving them well, or are we relying on a service when we get called in to